Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Callan Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning. If this year, if you're a first-time viewer, it is a live call-in show. And what we do is we talk about a certain topic, and we invite you to call in if you have any questions regarding that topic, or if you have any questions regarding health issues you might be dealing with or a loved one might be dealing with, because this show is all about trying to help you live a healthier lifestyle. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. And then at the end of the show, we'll have a weekly special that we'll share with you. We're talking about something today that probably affects, well, more probably mature adults.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No, believe it or not, no.
It is the number one complaint that we hear from almost everybody that comes in.
Day in, day out.
Really?
And definitely a lot of the teenagers and 20s. So
Really?
we can,
Guess
we
what it
can
is?
definitely say it affects almost everybody, not just older people, no doubt.
And that is?
Fatigue.
Fatigue.
I mean, that's what we hear day in, day out. Probably the biggest symptom that we hear from everybody, no matter what it is I'm so tired.
Yeah, the vaguest of the vague symptoms.
Yep.
And there my mind all of a sudden goes out back to the old commercial. Do you have iron poor tired?
That's true. Well, that's true.
And
Yeah.
it's not
We've talked about that
always-
before.
yeah. And it's
Geritol.
not always,
Geritol,
it is not always an iron deficiency. Actually, it is. That's actually one of the
Probably
lower
one of the
problems.
least things.
Yeah, least things. Except women in childbearing years will get anemic, so you will see iron deficiency in them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you will see iron deficiency with some other health issues as people get older. There is no doubt. But at that point, you got to figure out why. It's not just, iron deficiencies, of course, if you give blood regularly, it's understandable because you haven't built your blood back up. Or if you're, of course, women having heavy cycles, that makes sense. It's when you have an iron deficiency or you're anemic and you don't know why. Then that is when you got to dig a little deeper and figure out. Now, no doubt, iron deficiency makes fatigue, a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, it does.
So, but that's easy to rule out. That really is easy. If you check iron, check CBC, you know if it's that. Now, another thing that affects anemia is B12. So it's not always an iron deficiency. It can actually be a B12 or a folate deficiency. We're seeing a lot of folate deficiencies, which we used to not.
Well, I think it's probably because people, people don't eat the fresh produce and stuff.
Right.
Where you get a lot of your, green leafy vegetables. That's where you get a lot of your folates. They don't eat that anymore. So even if they're doing the packaged processed stuff, you're not getting that.
No.
And everything's been fortified with folic acid. And one of the issues that we've run into of late, probably within the past, 10 years, looking at through the genetics, once we understood what was going on, they're giving everything with folic acid, and a big part of the population can't use folic acid.
40% of the population can't use.
It's probably more than that now.
Turn synthetic folic acid into folate for the body to use.
Right.
And so that is actually, it's a methylation issue, but that also does make a lot of fatigue, but also makes anxiety too, which is another big symptom.
Yeah,
but
it is.
So when you're talking about fatigue, okay, what all can cause fatigue? I mean, just about anything can cause fatigue.
Definitely.
Dehydration can even cause fatigue. Mineral deficiency, magnesium. That's one of the big symptoms of a magnesium deficiency. And we do see a lot of people with magnesium problems. And one of the big symptoms, fatigue.
Wow.
Now, like I said, there's so many things that can do it. Now, everybody always thinks of certain things like iron. But the other big one that everybody thinks is thyroid.
And it could be.
And it can be.
Yeah.
And if your TSH is normal, it does not mean it's not thyroid either. So a lot of times just the TSH is checked, but if your T3 is low, you'll be really fatigued. So that we have so many people come in, and I am going to tell people out there listening, you don't want to just come in and do parts.
No.
We have people come in and they say, I just want to do my thyroid because I know it's a thyroid problem. I'm just so tired. I know it's a thyroid problem. Well, you don't want to do that because when it comes back, okay, it's not a thyroid problem. Now what? Then they got to come back again because you really should check everything and see it together. And that's why we don't like doing parts.
No, actually, one of the biggest problems we have is somebody that comes in like that. Just want my thyroid checked. I know it's it. That's it. It's got to be. Well, you check their thyroid, and thyroid looks okay. Okay, you're back to that square one.
Yep.
What is it now? And you know, we've been telling them all along, okay, you really probably, if fatigue is your biggest, you know, problem, you really probably should do at least our expanded panel.
Exactly.
You know, that's kind of the minimum thing to do. Look at, and you can go online if you want to check out our website and you can see what's all involved in that. But we check the thyroid, the adrenals, check the iron levels, ferritin and so on. We check the CBC to make sure you're not anemic there. Liver, kidneys, vitamin D, B12, folate, all that.
Electrolytes. 'Cause
Electrolytes.
Low potassium definitely makes fatigue.
Yeah.
So, but you don't want to just go out and take a whole bunch of potassium
No.
because you can get too much potassium. So that's when you start looking at, you know, that's why it is so important to do lab tests when you do have fatigue, and especially if it's that overwhelming fatigue. And people do get that, and we hear a lot of people that
We hear that term a lot,
They
overwhelming.
just want to take a nap anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah, anytime during the day. So I
And
just want to rest
another-
my eyes for a minute.
Another reason that we see a lot is adrenals. Now that's probably, we see adrenals almost more than anything, especially since COVID hit.
Yeah.
People are more stressed than ever. And stress can either make your adrenals too high or eventually too low. Either one causes fatigue. They're a little bit different fatigue. Sometimes you have an anxious fatigue if it's too much cortisol.
Yeah.
You have anxiety with fatigue. If it's too low, you just are fatigued where I don't even want to get up.
Now, a lot of people will tell you they're tired, but they feel jittery on the inside.
Yep.
That's kind of a common expression. I'm so tired, I can't move, but I just feel real jittery, nervous on the inside. And
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a common symptom, common problem, you know, of adrenals. Now, adrenals has another component also. And a lot of people don't know what this is because it's not something that's checked every day. We do it on every panel, but not everybody else does. It's called DHEA. DHEA is a hormone that is made in the adrenals. They do call it the aging hormone. So, as the hormone, as you age, it gets lower, but as it gets lower, you age. So, it is very important to keep that DHEA optimal. And we look at it, and when we do the DHEA, it tells you what it should be for your age, because it is a huge difference between a 20-year-old and a 60-year-old. And
Which is why I take it every day.
exactly, because I have more people that say, oh my God, that made such a difference. I mean, it makes a huge difference. But again, you don't want to just go out and take huge amounts of DHEA. For
No.
one, too much DHEA can cause problems as well. So when we get back from the break, we'll talk more about what DHEA, a little bit more about DHEA, because that's something that people out there just don't understand.
well, they don't understand
It's
it.
something that they've never, a lot of people have never had checked.
Yeah.
And there are some people that shouldn't take a lot of DHEA, and we'll talk about who can take it and who can't take it when we get back.
All right. Our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about fatigue this morning. We're going to take that break, and we'll be back in a moment. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm Jim Tabor, your host, along with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox, and our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about fatigue this morning, and we were talking about DHEA, which mentioned that something that we both take.
Right.
One a day.
Yeah, like I said, well, it depends. And the dosage depends on the person, depends on male, female. And one of the reasons is DHEA is a precursor to testosterone. So if a female gets too much, they will start getting facial hair, and they will start, getting symptoms. There are side effects to DHEA. That's why we don't tell people just to run out and go get it. You want to see where your level is, and you want to monitor it.
And we get them to come in a lot of times too that have already taken it. They've been somewhere, somebody told me, yeah, you need to be taking DHEA. So they go buy maybe 50 milligrams or something. They start taking it, females especially.
Right.
And they'll come in and when you check it, it's like, whoa, it's up there. And they're complaining about, facial hair. And
Yeah, and then it helps anxiety because it helps you handle stress better. But yet when you get too much, it can make anxiety. So again, in a normal dose usually doesn't affect blood pressure, but too much will. So there's a lot of things that you have to watch and make sure you don't want too little or too much.
All right. We have a caller called in and said, I frequently urinate and I take a lot of potassium. Do you offer any sort of testing to determine the cause? Would this also cause stiffness in my back?
Anything's possible. You got to find out why this person is taking all this potassium. I mean, I know they urinate a lot, but obviously hopefully you've had it checked and see that it was low. If you haven't, you really need to find
Right.
out, do you really need the potassium?
And actually, one thing that drops potassium is high cortisol.
Exactly.
So we mentioned the stress hormone. High stress hormone does drop cortisol. I mean, does drop potassium. But you don't, like I said, you can't assume that. Now, there's different things going on. So that's individual. That's what we're there for. Is we help people figure out what they need to check. You definitely want to do at least our expanded panel. And that way you do get your cortisol checked, you get your urine checked, you get your blood sugar checked, because blood sugar can definitely make frequent urination. So, you just check everything, see where you are.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you have to do is check, because you don't know without seeing what's going on. So, like I said, with that symptom fatigue, that's why we tell people, when people come in and they think okay, I need something for fatigue. I want to take something today.
What you got for fatigue?
Well, gosh, I got all store full of stuff for fatigue.
Really?
It might not work if it ain't the right thing.
I always tell them it's in a white bottle.
It isn't going to work if you don't get the right area. So that's why testing becomes important, is because you get the right thing, you'll see a big difference in your fatigue.
Yeah.
If you don't, you might say, oh, well, I took that and it didn't make any difference. Well, yeah, it's not what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we always stress you got to check. And so many people don't. They run out and just go buy something that is supposed to help energy. Now, one thing that we don't use for fatigue is stimulants. We do not sell stimulants at our store.
No.
I do not like stimulants. Because they can cause other issues. We have a few things I can say that are stimulating, like ginseng, and even then we're careful at who we recommend it for.
Very cautious about
Very
that.
cautious.
Really?
It's not technically a stimulant, but yet it is stimulating. So ginseng has its place, especially for low cortisol. So, but if you have too much cortisol and you take ginseng, it's going to make you worse. That's why I tell people, if you do the wrong thing, it doesn't just not
detrimental
work,
to
it
you.
can actually make you worse. Exactly, depending on what you're looking at.
Okay. 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you. If you have a question regarding our topic of fatigue or any other questions like the one person that just called in, please feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call.
When you look at our lab work, probably every single thing we check on our lab work can cause fatigue if it's off.
Yeah.
Because if you have an infection, yes, that's going to make you tired. Whether it be a viral, whether it be bacterial, whatever, that makes you tired. If you have kidney issues, that usually makes you anemic, which makes you tired, but it's not an iron deficiency or a B12 or folate deficiency, not necessarily. So you can't just go out and take that. You want to look and see, because the kidneys itself can make you anemic.
Sure can.
Liver problems can make you tired. Electrolytes being off definitely make you tired.
I think you can kind of see that just about
Thyroid makes you tired.
Yeah.
Adrenals make you tired. And now a big one that actually makes everybody tired, and it's so easy to fix, is vitamin D deficiency. Now that is something, when you start looking at vitamin D deficiency, it can make you hurt all over. We hear about aching, hurting, and tired all the time. Sometimes it's as simple as vitamin D.
Yeah.
And vitamin D is so important for that immune system. So important. So you definitely want to see if that's part of the problem.
And talking about the low immune system, somebody with a low white count, which is your immune system, they're going to be very fatigued a lot of times.
Exactly. Yep. A low immune system.
All right, another caller. I have an appointment with my doctor next month to get my thyroid checked out. Lately, I've been feeling fatigued and I've lost weight. Is there anything I can do in the meantime until my appointment?
Well, you need more than your thyroid checked, again, because thyroid is one little area. You can't just look at one thing. One thing that might be very beneficial if you come do our expanded panel, and then you can bring the results with you when you go see your doctor. And that way it's already back, it's already done. So that is what I'm going to tell you in the meantime, is I'd look at everything. I wouldn't just look at the thyroid.
And you don't want to just start taking stuff between now and then. That's never a good
Y'all
idea.
usually get the results back within just a couple of days.
Depends on if we check
what
hormones, it's a little bit longer, but don't necessarily check more hormones. But when you start talking about weight loss, that can be
a lot of things.
a whole different thing. That can be an overactive thyroid. It can be adrenal fatigue, complete adrenal shutdown.
We see that.
So you can, we have seen it. So there's a lot of things that can actually do that, but you need to definitely check more than thyroid.
Yes, and a whole lot more than just TSH.
Oh yeah, and if you just check TSH, don't tell you what's going on
Actually,
either.
the way we explain it with the TSH is that's your brain It's not your thyroid. So you've looked at your brain. Now you need to see what the thyroid's actually doing. So you have to check those T4, T3, all that stuff. A lot more to it.
Yeah, our expanded panel does 4 different tests on thyroid, and then we even have an expanded thyroid panel, which actually does even more stuff. It goes into reverse T3, and it does the antibodies to the thyroid, which is your autoimmune thyroid problem. So it does a lot. It does pretty much just about every test there is on
And we
thyroid.
see a lot of that autoimmune thyroid stuff
Yeah,
too.
really?
Really do.
All right. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you now. Again, we were talking about fatigue, but if you have any other questions regarding anything dealing with in health, please feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. We've got our final break coming up in just a moment, as well as this week's special. And welcome back. It's our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. It's our final segment this morning. We've got a question. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's go ahead and get to what our special of the week is this week.
Yeah, it's B12 and 5-MTHF, which is a type of methylfolate. We decided to put that on sale because that is one thing that doesn't hurt if you take it if you don't need it. It's always better to know if you do. It doesn't always help fatigue all the way if that's not the problem, like we talked about, but it's not going to hurt to take it. So we didn't want to put something on special that everybody come out and bought and they really shouldn't be taking it. So that was a hard one to figure out what to give because so many things are very specific.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that was one that pretty much just, anybody, it ain't going to hurt them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it'd probably do them good in more than one way.
And we do see a lot of B12 deficiencies.
We do.
Okay.
A lot more B12 than folate, but we see honestly, tons. And a lot of people can be in normal range on B12, but it's not optimal. And they still see a big difference in the way they feel if they get optimal ranges. There was actually a study done, gosh, now it's been probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, where they took people in normal B12 range. Okay, we want people in normal range. That was who the study was on. And what they did was it was people over 55. And they took them and they did an MRI of the brain as well. So they had their B12 level and an MRI of the brain. What they showed was people on the low end of the range had brain shrinkage.
More so than others, yeah.
More so than the group that was on the higher end of the range. So basically that tells you as you get older, if you're in that older group, you want your B12 to be on the higher end. You don't want it to just be in the normal range. And so that's kind of because you don't want your brain to shrink. And that is a common problem with aging. And
that is that's a big problem that people don't realize. When you talk about that, anti-aging stuff, one of the big issues we have is the shrinkage of the brain.
Yeah.
And we need to do things to keep the brain active. I mean, the puzzles and things like that, those are all good. And that's keeping it active, but at the same time, you don't want that thing to shrink.
No, because this study actually just looked at B12 levels, and they did show everybody on the lower end was tending to have brain shrinkage.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you don't want to just be in normal level. If you've been told, oh, well, your B12 is normal, look at it and make sure it's optimal.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
800 or above.
800 or above.
You'll see the list.
All right, another caller with a question. I had a cortisone shot in my leg. I no longer have any feeling in my legs, and I can't walk. What can be done about this?
Go back to whoever gave you that shot for sure.
Or I would maybe go somewhere different than.
Well, that's possible
yeah,
too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you want to go find out what's going on.
Yeah.
It might have hit a nerve. I mean, I don't know. You
Sounds
think
like
about,
they hit a nerve.
You think about a nerve damage somehow. I don't know.
you
That
need
one's one that is definitely would be very individual. You need to go back to a doctor and maybe go back to a different doctor.
A neurologist.
A neurologist
is
for
probably
sure.
where I'd take
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
All right, another caller. Lately, my hands have been randomly becoming numb. Usually it occurs in my right hand. I really enjoy using my hands. They're usually pretty helpful in most situations.
That's
Yes,
true.
they are.
What causes this to occur and how can I prevent it?
Okay.
One of the big things with, just that, what you'd call a temporary type thumb numbness, could be the neck. So, our background being chiropractors, we always think, okay, musculoskeletal, and it's highly possible that something's pinching a nerve for you. In certain movements, certain positions you get into, and it'll kind of go numb on you. I would probably tell you the first thing to do is to find a reputable chiropractor and have that thing checked out.
Now another thing is the B12 and
They can
folate.
do that too. Yeah.
B12 and folate, one of the symptoms is numbness and tingling because it causes nerve problems.
Right.
Now the numbness is almost always a nerve problem. I will say that.
It is.
Almost always a nerve problem. But whether it's coming from a deficiency in something or whether it's coming from impingement at the neck, like the cervical spine or even the upper thoracics, now it's usually cervical because of the hands. But, like I said, see a chiropractor, have your B12 folate checked. That would be the things that you would do first. We do have something called, if it is from a deficiency, we have something called NeuroRenew, which gives you B12, high doses of the B12 and methylfolate, but also stuff to actually help with nerve damage.
Yeah, like the alpha lipoic acid, things like that. The stuff that you don't hear as much about.
And if it's at night while you're sleeping, check your pillow. Sometimes the position of your neck can actually make numbness because you are putting pressure on that nerve, but it's because of the position, and so many people's pillows are not good.
Right.
Yep.
Sound advice.
Yep.
896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We have a few minutes left in this morning's show, so if you have a question regarding anything regarding your health.
When it talks about fatigue, is pretty much covers everything.
Yeah, it really does.
No matter what it is, most people are tired. You don't see people that are sick that say, "Oh, I feel great."
That's true. I think that right there pretty much sums it up. If you're feeling good, and if you're not sick, you feel pretty good. You got energy. You do fine. Well, if anything's wrong, you just don't feel good. Your energy levels are down.
Yeah, feel out of balance.
And so you got to find out what it is.
Okay, another caller. Do you offer testing for testosterone levels, and if so, how much does it cost?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
And if we just do testosterone, which we recommend doing other stuff with it, but just testosterone is $35 plus the draw fee, so I think it's like $40.
Oh.
What?
Testosterone?
Yeah.
I learned something today.
What? Yeah, he don't know the cost of
I know the cost of stuff.
Now, our hormone panels, which is a better way of going, it's $125, I think, both men and women, if you do it by itself. If you add it to our expanded panel, it's $75 extra. So if you did the expanded panel with hormones, it'd be $235, which is your best bet.
But it's going to check that DHEA that we talked about.
Right, exactly.
Because you don't know how many people, guys especially, that we see come in and they've got low testosterone, they're being treated for low testosterone, and their DHEA is in the toilet.
Right.
With the big finger on the plush.
Yeah, and if DHEA is low, you're still not going to have the energy you should, even if you get your testosterone up.
Right.
So it does, the hormone panels, depending on if male or female, of course, on females, it does 2 different kinds of estrogens.
Yeah.
It does progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and vitamin D, because it technically is a hormone.
Right.
In men, our hormone panel does the testosterone, does the DHEA, does estrogen, because men can get too much estrogen and cause problems. It also does vitamin D, and it does a PSA, because you want to know where that prostate is, because you don't want to just jack up, even DHEA can affect the prostate if you get too much. So you want to see where your prostate is to see if it can take an increase in hormone levels.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and the guys, especially when we do that testosterone, we give you a free and weekly bound. Because free testosterone is really good, bound testosterone not so good.
Right.
So we want to know the difference between the two.
So our test does not just tell you for the men, if you have it, it's also if you can use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I can remember back before I got on my regimen.
Yep, and hormones can definitely make fatigue too.
Yep.
So hormones can make fatigue too.
I take a DHEA every day, and you have great energy. Anyway, thanks for joining us this morning on this morning's show, and next week
we're going to talk mitochondria.
Which will help with that fatigue.
It helps with fatigue too, because mitochondrial problems also cause fatigue.
Okay, wonderful. So mitochondria next Monday morning here. Of course, you can find a lot of great information going to doctorsnutrition.com, their website, or you can find their Facebook page and find a lot of information on there. Anyway, hope you have a wonderful week. It's going to be beautiful outside, so get out and enjoy it.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.